public access.
What cams are in an OEM stock Ford Mustang S197 Boss 302? When Ford introduced the dual overhead cam 32-valve 5-liter V8 engine known as the Coyote for the 2011 through 2014 S197 Mustang, they knew they developed an engine that could not only withstand boosted applications and provide great power, but would be an absolute naturally aspirated monster, suitable for grueling drag and road racing applications. However, details about which cams Ford engineers designed for different Coyote variants were unclear at best, and the Ford Racing Performance Parts catalog only confused and distorted the information further with ambiguous language and vague wording in the camshaft category descriptions. The Ford Racing Performance Parts catalog offers Boss 302 intake and exhaust camshafts, as the title clearly states. At first glance, one would assume these are OEM stock Boss 302 camshafts that were installed at the factory for production, street-legal, VIND Boss 302s. Many Boss 302 owners skipped this page in the catalog, assuming said cams were already installed in their production Boss 302s, and GT owners contemplated upgrading their cams to match the stock Boss 302 cams installed at the factory. Or so they thought. When Ford decided it was the right time to bring back the Boss 302 nameplate to coincide with the birth of the legendary Coyote V8 engine, they knew a special version of the Coyote, known as the Roadrunner in the Mustang community, would have to accompany the reworked S197 chassis to harken back to the glory days of the 1969 and 1970 Boss 302 Road Course Champion. A Coyote engine block was given a forged rotating assembly, CNC ported heads, upgraded timing components, upgraded valve springs, a runners-in-the-box intake manifold, a Ford Racing ECU tune via the track key, and upgraded camshafts to aid in the high revving horsepower potential. Starting with the OEM stock Coyote cams found in the 2011 GT Mustang, Ford engineers improved the Boss 302 exhaust cam's lift by 2 millimeters, all while maintaining the same 263-degree duration as the OEM stock Coyote cams. Both the OEM stock Coyote intake cams and OEM stock Roadrunner intake cams were identical with 12 millimeters of lift with a 260-degree duration. However, Ford engineers actually originally devised much more aggressive cams for the OEM stock Boss 302 Roadrunner engine, which unfortunately were rejected due to production costs and potential emissions issues, which were later proved unfounded and insignificant, but we'll get to that in another upload. The OEM stock Boss 302 Roadrunner engine was designed to run intake cams with 13 millimeters of lift and a duration of 263 degrees, and exhaust cams with 13 millimeters of lift and a duration of 290 degrees, with both intake and exhaust cams receiving a more aggressive grind, reducing latency and improving engine response. When Ford engineers learned Ford accountants and corporate finance wizards rejected the extra costs of these special cams, engineers curtailed their excitement and reverted back to the shared GT Boss 302 12mm 260-degree intake cams and the less aggressive 13mm 263-degree exhaust cams for the OEM stock Boss 302 Roadrunner engine. But did you think Ford engineers were just going to scrap these special cams designed, matched, and balanced specifically for the OEM stock Boss 302 Roadrunner engine? Would you? Ford engineers pressed forward and pleaded their case to at least use the cams in the naturally aspirated Cobra Jet drag race car program, as engine specifications were nearly identical with the OEM stock Boss 302 Roadrunner engine. Permission from the powers that be were granted, and the special cams originally designed for the OEM stock Boss 302 Roadrunner engine program now had an official name:
Cobra Jet cams.
So, essentially, the S197 platform housing the Coyote V8 variant had 3 different sets of intake and exhaust cams depending on the trim package selected by the customer. If the customer selected an S197 GT, the intake cams had a lift of 12mm and a duration of 260 degrees, with exhaust cams with a lift of 11mm and a duration of 263 degrees. The S197 Boss 302 had intake cams with a lift of 12mm with duration at 260 degrees, and exhaust cams with a lift of 13mm and a duration of 263 degrees. Take note that the intake cams for both the Boss 302 and the GT are exactly the same. If the customer selected an S197 naturally aspirated Cobra Jet drag race car that was for off-road use only, the intake cams had a lift of 13mm with a duration of 263 degrees, and exhaust cams with a lift of 13mm and a duration of 290 degrees. The Cobra Jet cams found in the naturally aspirated Cobra Jet drag race car were originally intended for use on the production Boss 302. So, now, when you look at the Ford Racing Performance Parts catalog and see Boss 302 intake and exhaust camshafts, we understand these were the cams originally designed and intended for the OEM stock Boss 302 Roadrunner engine program, but were rejected due to cost. The initial understanding of why Ford advertised these cams as Boss 302 cams and not Cobra Jet cams is still unclear, as a more thorough explanation of the identity of the cams would have been appreciated by Boss 302 owners and all Mustang enthusiasts. So, how do these cams perform? After installing the Cobra Jet cams in our Boss 302 track car, I can attest to their unbelievable performance, maintaining decent torque down low and punishing horsepower pulls in high RPM territory. I absolutely understand these cams were originally made for the Boss 302 Roadrunner engine, as drivability is flawless and maintenance-free. Phase limiters are not needed, as TI VCT masterfully controls cam phasing, and the Ford Racing Track Key Tune can be adjusted to take full advantage of the upgraded lift and duration the Cobra Jet cams provide. The Lopi idle works really well with the Cobra Jet cams, don't you think? I will address true performance gains of the Cobra Jet cams in an upcoming upload. Subscribe now and join me as I take our Cobra Jet cammed-equipped Boss 302 track car to race at various tracks to remind the Ford accountants and bean counters just how badly they screwed up by not giving the OEM stock Boss 302 Roadrunner engine the camshafts Ford engineers worked so hard at creating for us Coyote-loving enthusiasts. That's a bad Ford executive accountant team. Bad Ford executive...
Public access.